welcome all, and welcome back to the Bleav in I Say podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Carter.
And I'm your host, Cody Van Cielo.
Cody, to say that last night's game was ugly is an understatement. The Cyclones lose a disappointing game on the road in Stillwater, 74 to 68. What are your thoughts?
I there was a lot of obviously in the moment I was very heated. Like I made a 5 minute Twitter rant about like the effort and whatnot, and that's a lot of like the things that most people are going to talk about when it comes to this game was just the lack of effort offensively, just with reckless turnovers and things like that. One thing I did notice was the shots were short, and I think maybe it was highlighted on John Walters and Eric Heff's call that like the guys maybe were fatigued, maybe they were just tired because that Houston game, it took a lot. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think we're forgetting that even while they like that Houston game was on Saturday and this was the Oklahoma State game was yesterday, they're still feeling like the mental fatigue, especially in the Big 12. I think that still played a bit of a factor. And I think that's what it was. Now, it doesn't mean that it excuses any of like the things that happened last night. TJ obviously noted it's clearly unacceptable. Like this is like unacceptable to like the standard that everybody knows they need to be playing up to. But I think maybe that fatigue was kind of playing a factor.
Yeah, I definitely think fatigue definitely played a factor because, like you said, I think everybody, everybody was in their feelings. It's like I don't think I've seen like a sentiment like this that has been mostly united in like the same thing. Because I was telling you pre-show, like I think this is the most upset I've been about a game in like years, dude. Like I think it's just because we know what this team is capable of,
Yeah.
and then I'm also starting to think I'm like, well, does Keyshawn really make that much of a difference with one player being left out? But I mean, I think the answer to that is probably yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so because the way like Keyshawn, like here's the thing, everybody like everybody's getting criticizing like the team for like turnovers or whatnot, and Keyshawn Gilbert is no doubt he gets a lot of criticism for his turnovers. I think with the way that Keyshawn Gilbert plays and his style of ball, you're gonna, and with how Iowa State usually plays basketball this year, they get a lot more like possessions. So of course the turnover number is gonna be a little
Hmm.
higher. It's just because Iowa State's playing at a pace where you get more offensive possessions. So by probability, you're probably going to turn the ball over a little more. So that's just by nature. And the way Keyshawn Gilbert plays, like he's one of the guys that, like, yeah, you kind of wish he doesn't turn the ball over so much, but with the like with what he brings to the table and how he like brings defenses to collapse and opens up other guys, you kind of still want that for Keyshawn Gilbert because you still want that ability to find open guys on the perimeter and have those guys be able to hit their shots. So I think that's one thing that um, was missed, obviously, and but I mean, the one positive I could take is the fact that Keyshawn is getting like some rest, so it's gonna be nice to hopefully see like because yes, this one stung, and I mean the short term seedings are gonna really sting, but if you are able to kind of look more like to March into March Madness, this might help a little more, is because like you guys are more healthy for when that time comes, and winning in March is going to be the most important goal for this team.
Yeah, like one of my friends said, this team success is going to be defined in March. And you brought up a very good thing about turnovers. One question I do have with what you said about Keyshawn, do you just think that with the type of ball that we play, do you think that turnovers are part of this team's identity?
I think it's just gonna be so like at this point, I think I'm no longer like concerned about like um turnovers like um whatever. Like I think at this point they might be, honestly. I'll be real. Turnovers are gonna be prone because it's the way like because we're just not I think us as fans, we aren't used to playing this like we aren't used to seeing this style of basketball. Like where it's high octane offense. We've been so used to like the very lockdown defense, smack you in the mouth, low score physical like type of game. I think we're still like we're just not used to like this high octane of players, but it's also like the fact that we still at the end of the day do not have the talented players that the likes of Kentucky Kansas,
Hmm.
Duke, and Alabama play. And I mean, what we're doing with it is going to be a factor. So, of course, you're more likely to turn it over because the guys aren't able to, like, they may not be as poised as those higher tier talents. So, I think it's a matter of like turnovers are going to just be something that like may come around, but it's a matter of getting back on defense and limiting like points off of turnovers, which has been Iowa State's identity from the get go, and it they experienced what it's like to be on the other side of it yesterday.
And I think that's one of the things that made me upset is like we were getting turnovers, but we weren't getting back on defense at all. Hadn't been getting easy shots, but I mean, I'm not gonna lie, some of those shots we did contest, and they were just making them. I'm like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? For the second game in a row, once again, I like like in some ways I agree with you. But yeah, I think at this point, like you said, turnover, like this team is who they are. So at this point, I'm not really gonna put a fuss about like the turnovers and stuff. It is what it is.
Yeah,
Hopefully, and I'm really just hoping and praying that it just doesn't bite us in the butt in a tournament game because I just have a feeling that that's what's gonna happen.
yeah, and I just at this yeah, I mean, it's just like about getting back. I think the effort thing is the number one thing that everybody's going to take away from last night, was just the lack of effort. And just that is what I think was the most upsetting thing
Yes.
about that entire game, because there were points where the team had it within like two scores, but they just could never get over the hump.
Yeah, because they went on that nice 10-0 run, and
Hmm.
then they just gave it back up. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's the box score is just so deceiving, and
Yeah,
it really doesn't tell the full story. But I mean, looking at it here, like although it was a terrible night, there still was some highlights to have, and I think there's at least something to take away that's good for like this team. I mean, Joshua Jefferson, like, yeah, 7 turnovers, which was really bad. I mean, I think for Jefferson, it's just got to be much like I was talking to a buddy of mine, and his big gripe with Jefferson is like, he just doesn't take care of the basketball, whether it's dribbling too high or dribbling it too much, which can lead to teams picking his pocket easily. So for Jefferson, he's just got to go up aggressive early. That's one thing that was missing from this game, was the lack of physicality in the paint, which is what Iowa State's bread and butter is on offense. Yep, it wasn't there until basically the second media timeout.
right.
So
And go ahead, just finish.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and another thing that just was crazy, and like I probably will chalk it up to fatigue, is just man, 12 of 20 at the free throw line, man. Like you missed 8 free throw shots, and honestly, I honestly think that that was a difference in the game. Like, can you imagine if we would have hit at least 6 more free throw shots? Like, we probably would be in overtime. Like, it's just crazy how the ball can roll, and like we just got to be better at the free throw line, especially really coming off the last three. We had a good like 3 or 4 game stretch where we were shooting excellent from the free throw line, but today or last night we
Yeah,
struggled.
yeah, I think that was just a symptom of like like I mentioned, fatigue, because shots were short. So I mean that
Oh
just
yeah,
comes down to being fatigued. So it's like you're not gonna get as much like juice in your shot. So
yeah. And let's look at Oklahoma State. And see, and that's the thing. Like they went 6 of 23 from three, but yeah, I mean they were killing us inside, especially um, Abu Usmani, because I mean he was eating because all of our bigs were in foul trouble, so like they really couldn't do anything otherwise. They would have probably gotten their fourth and fifth fouls and would have fouled out. So I mean they took advantage of that. Um, they were more physical than us. So I mean, congrats to Oklahoma State on the win.
yeah, and it was funny seeing their court storm. It was kind of hilarious, and I saw one guy say that this was like Oklahoma State's revenge for 2011.
Yeah, I saw that. I
I'm
mean,
like, if that's what you want to put it to, whatever.
that
Whatever.
shows you how low that they've gone as a program.
Yeah, to
If
think
they
they
think,
went from like what was it, 2014, 15 Oklahoma State, when they had Marcus Smart in the squad, to now this. Just
yeah, it's been a crazy, crazy. Uh, this dissension like into like not even mediocrity. They're just bad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we're gonna go look at and take a look into the look around the Big 12,
Yeah.
and let's look at the action. 1 second.
Yep.
Were there any other games that stood out to you last
Uh,
night or?
right there, Florida, Georgia. Georgia gets
Yeah,
the win over
Georgia
Florida.
beats Florida. Man,
So,
I mean
what does this
that's
do for Florida in terms of the one seed? What does this do for them?
all right. Let's look because Georgia is 5-10. That definitely will take a hit, and we're gonna look at Florida's losses.
Yeah, keep scrolling.
But
Yeah, yep.
they have got to. They lost on the road, Kentucky. They lost by 20 to Tennessee. Lost to Georgia, and then they who else did they lose to?
I think I saw
Oh,
Missouri,
Missouri. They lost to Missouri,
and that was at home. That was at
and that
home.
was at home.
But we've realized now that Missouri is a pretty good squad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it really does much to be honest, because I mean they can still regain if they win the next two games. Like obviously that's easier said than last three games because Ole Miss is pretty feisty too, and they're 19-8. But I mean, they have a chance to redeem themselves at home against A&M, and then they had to go on the road to Tuscaloosa and play Alabama. So I mean, uh, they have a chance to get a few quad one wins. So I mean, if they maintain that, then they probably will be able to keep that number one seeding, depending on what Alabama and Auburn do.
For
Oh,
sure.
and Duke, of course.
Duke. Well, I mean, I feel like Auburn and Duke. I feel like are just like universal locks, unless Duke like somehow loses to like I don't know. Like I really don't see a world where Duke like is not a one seed. There's no
No,
reason to see it.
I agree. Like it's basically inevitable with how mid. It's not even mid. How bad the ACC is. Like that's how the ball rolls sometimes, unfortunately.
Yep.
Um, but let's look and see other action. Wow.
Yeah, pretty quiet night
Um,
outside of us. Yeah,
yeah.
Cincinnati getting the win over Baylor and West Virginia keeping their bubble hopes alive with the win over TCU.
West Virginia has had a pretty impressive run over the last few games. Since this Cincinnati game, Cincinnati was up by double digits at halftime. So Baylor must have came storming back. Um,
Yeah, just, I don't know. Baylor is just like we mentioned this on the last show, but yeah, they're stuck. They've nosedived since like that national championship.
yeah, they've plummeted. They're not getting the same type of talent that they were getting.
Yeah, they've
Um,
lost what one, two, three, four, five of their last seven games have been losses. Their win, yeah. I mean, they lost at Texas Tech, lost at Houston, then they lose three straight to Arizona, at Colorado, and now at Cincinnati. And I mean, let's see here. Their remaining schedule is
here, I'll
Oklahoma
pull it up.
State at the Foster Pavilion. Yeah, you pull it up. Yeah, you host Oklahoma State at the Foster Pavilion. Then you go to Fort Worth to take on TCU, and then you are home to Houston.
Yeah, Houston is the Big 12 champs, but hey, this might be a game to just bolster their resume, or maybe just get it back on track and see what they can do in the Big 12 tournament. Let's look and see and look at Wednesdays, and then we'll take a look over and look at see if there's some other games in the national slate that pique our interest. But we're first going to look and see if there's anything today for Wednesday.
Yeah, I think there was a few.
Okay, so we have eh, another lackluster slate. We have Kansas State at going on the road to Edition Financial Arena in Orlando to play UCF.
Mhm.
We have Utah going on the road to the McHale Center and playing Arizona, and then we have BYU going to Tempe to play Arizona State. Do any of these games pique your interest?
I'm pretty sure, like, obviously, like two of our like next. Well, these are actually all three of these teams are our next opponent in some way, shape, or form. I mean, you have Arizona and BYU that are going to be visiting Hilton Coliseum here in the next week, and then you get Kansas State in Bramlage Coliseum for Farmageddon in round two. So, in some way, shape, or form, these do play a role for Iowa State because these are like all three of our next opponents play in this window or play on this day. So might be doing some like scouting, perhaps.
And honestly, like to go 3-0 in these last three games will definitely ease the fan base's nerves because like man, like the crash out everybody had last night was insane. Um, but with that, we're gonna go look at the national slate.
Yeah, because yeah, I mean these are like I don't know, like the
We're gonna
last
go
like
back in Tuesday and see.
yeah, last wait a minute, Tuesday. Oh yeah, with, like other things yesterday, but yeah, outside of that Florida game, I really didn't see anything nationally. But I mean,
Yeah, okay, we'll look at today.
yeah. So
Ooh,
what do we got?
there's two of them I want to look at. There is that both come on at 6 o'clock. But there's Ole Miss traveling to Auburn on ESPN2 at 6 p.m. And then we also have Vanderbilt going on the road to A&M at 6 p.m.
Okay, that's not too shabby. I mean,
Oh,
are you seeing a top 25 matchup? Michigan State at Maryland.
yes, yes.
Michigan State. I mean, first, like this is gonna help them really get a bit of a leg up on Michigan when it comes to the Big 10 race because for Michigan State, after this game at Maryland, they have to host Wisconsin. They're at Carver Hawkeye Arena to take on Iowa, and then they end the season, regular season, hosting Michigan.
Man, so the Big Ten is about to is about to figure out itself, and hopefully we can get it together because Michigan State and Wisconsin are going to be the teams that we're going to be fighting it out for that
Yeah,
final two seed.
or yeah, to get into Milwaukee. Actually, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe not even the final two seed, but just to get into Milwaukee
right.
because all three of those teams want to be in Milwaukee, just given the advantages that like your fan base would have. I think that's the big thing. That should be the focus for Iowa State. Is like obviously you're getting to March, but you want to like. I mean, if you're Iowa State at this point, if you're the team, do you like what do you focus on more? Getting guys healthy, getting to Milwaukee. There's a lot of things for
Uh,
them to like to really ask questions about.
yeah. Honestly, that's really what the question is. It's like, what's more important? Is it getting healthy, or is it, you know, is it going to be trying to get to Milwaukee and play close? Because that's, I mean, playing close, and I mean, if you get the Midwest bracket and you play in, you know, you play in Milwaukee and then you go to Indianapolis, that'd be great. But like at the same time, you want to be healthy, and as good as it would be to play close and just for us fan wise traveling, I almost feel like I would sacrifice that to for Keyshawn to be healthy. And even if it means that we have to be a 3 seed, I would just rather take that and then just try to make a run there and with a fully healthy team
And I
and
mean,
then
who
make a run.
knows? Yeah, you mentioned three seed. Who knows? Maybe we'll still end up in Milwaukee. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's what the top four seeds of each region get to choose.
Right.
Yeah, that's the case. And Iowa State gets to choose Milwaukee. Like they could still go to Milwaukee.
Right. We'll just be there with another team, whether that be Michigan State or Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we can. I would worry. Well, I guess the better matchup, if that's the case for Iowa State, would be Michigan State, because Michigan State, they're one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country.
Oh, I like those odds, and they do travel. They do travel pretty well.
Hmm.
let's look. I want to look at the bracketology real quick because I looked at this a few days ago,
Uh,
and I was very, very interested.
yeah, I feel like that would have been before like all the games that happened last night. So there's probably not going to be much that's changed there.
Right.
But if I like in case nothing that really changes, then I mean I have the Joe Lenardi's like uh updated thing on Twitter. So this is
Oh,
from about like 10:45.
here I will. Here you can share that. I'll take it off my sharing.
Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. The big surprising thing, like I think you mentioned earlier, was the fact that I think it was before the show. You mentioned that we only moved down one spot, and I mean, yeah, we only moved down one spot, and I guess that puts us in the South region. I'm trying to think. Oh wait, so that would be like, where would Iowa State play in that case if we were to?
Iowa State would play here. Let me go here. Yeah, can you? Here I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to get to the bracketology and then we'll.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just guide me through this, but oh wait,
Yeah,
yeah.
keep
Okay.
going down, and then
So
there you go.
so
So
oh, that's still a
three
well.
seed will be playing in Providence.
Okay. Interesting. That is interesting how that has this like. Well, I guess it's probably because I mean, let's see, did Kentucky choose that or like? Well, I don't remember.
Kentucky probably would choose that because I mean, as much as they want to play at home election, they're not going to do that. And then Michigan State, if it's a Big Ten team or a Big, let's say if it's Iowa State in that section, then they definitely going to be want to choose Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I think with Lexington, you technically can't like play in like the if you're hosting, you can't play in that like arena or something like that. Because I remember Creighton because they hosted the Omaha like first round and second round, and
Yeah,
like because they were hosting it, they couldn't play in Omaha. And some people were talking about like maybe they Iowa State would have played Creighton in Omaha, but yeah,
that's a
that wouldn't.
home game,
Yeah.
and that wouldn't be fair.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean I'm looking at other things that like can move around. Houston actually, like, I think this was maybe yesterday, but Houston moves up as that final number one seed, so might have knocked down A&M, Florida, and Tennessee a bit, but I mean probably Florida because after their loss.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Houston being the number. Yeah, I mean, if we can have one Big 12 team being that, yeah, if Houston can be that one seed for the Big 12. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that mean that we would have to hope we get our wish if we get on a run. We'd play um, Auburn and Atlanta in the Elite
And
Eight.
oh yeah, to get that rematch from Maui, which was like, I mean, the two teams are kind of in different directions, but I mean, still for Iowa State, the fact that you were probably like outside of the losses that like Auburn has, you were one of the like early in the year you proved to compete with Auburn. Now I don't know if I can say the same thing about this team right now, but you know psychologically you can compete with Auburn. It's just a matter of actually doing it. But I think
Right.
for this, I kind of like the way the seating works for Purdue. We could realistically beat Purdue. The only teams in here that I would fear having to play would be like St. John's.
Yeah, I do not want any part of St. John's or any type of Rick Pitino coach team
Yeah,
because those teams play so well, especially those Louisville teams, bro.
yeah,
Any
them.
team that's I'll take my chances with Michigan State. A&M is pretty athletic, but I think that we could take them. Um, Obviously, in the old before yesterday's result, um, the West. I'm telling you, the West Regional Final. I would have nerves. I would have nerves, yo. Like if it ends up being, if let's say in this scenario it ended up being Florida versus Iowa State with a chance to go to the Final Four. Like I mean I can't in this scenario I can't lose. And as with as upset as I would be that Iowa State would make the Final Four, I mean that'd be a win-win for me. I'm not gonna cap.
That's fair. Yeah, I guess another team I'd say I wouldn't want to play if I'm Iowa State like would be Tennessee. T-
Yes. Oh, Tennessee. I feel like Tennessee would be like a matchup nightmare for us, especially with the chance of Ziegler and then what's the other dude's name that was
Yeah.
hitting threes? Um,
Would it have been Ivisic? That's the other name I'm
nah,
thinking
not
of.
Visic.
Let me.
Dang, we and I brought him up in the podcast previous at the dude that scored 30 points on Saturday against A&M.
Let me go to that game. I'll look
Okay.
at it. Chaz Lanier.
Yeah, him and Chad. Yeah, I just have nightmares. It basically basically it'll give me nightmares because I don't know if you remember that 2011 2012 team with Royce White.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you
Hmm.
watch that Kentucky game where like they went
Yeah.
on that insane run of just making back to back threes?
Yep.
Like I just have a night that still haunts me because Iowa State was in three of that Kentucky team that won the national championship, and they just kept hitting three and they just kept making threes. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is insane. And then we were down by like 25. I'm like, my
Jeez.
goodness,
Yeah.
it,
They just couldn't be
it
stopped. Yeah.
got ugly quick, man.
Yeah. I mean that. That was wild, but I mean that's March for you. It's like you don't know when you're gonna run into a team that either one is not shooting well, then they just can't make a bucket, or you run into what like Kentucky did, and they just shoot you out the gym. Like you don't
Wait,
know what you're gonna get.
I do want there. Let's go back because I want to talk about who your possible like Cinderellas are in these. Let's say in that bracketology scenario.
Oh, and the this one, yeah, this yeah, I saw a couple teams here that kind of jumped out to me. I would say the first one that kind of really, it's obviously a little biased, but Drake. I mean, looking at this
Yeah, I
here
could definitely see Drake.
and Akron, the fact that Drake and Akron are like project like in this bracketology are in Denver.
Oh wait, in Arizona.
Yeah,
I could see Drake pulling the 12-5 upset over Oregon.
yeah. And do you think they get the 4-12 over Arizona, or does Arizona simply?
Uh I mean, I think it honestly depends on their guard play. If it depends on which Caleb Love shows up that game, because if it's the bad Caleb Love, then they could lose. But if good Caleb Love shows up, like the North Carolina Caleb Love when they won the Natty, like
Oh,
then
they didn't win the
or they
Natty.
didn't win the
They
Natty, they made it run. But like if he's that one at North Carolina where they made that run, then it's I don't see it. But man,
Mhm. Yeah, but I mean, at the end, like even with that, I mean, this region, like you still have Auburn. So honestly, unless somebody managed to get Auburn in the first weekend, Auburn's going to the Final Four and maybe the national championship. Unless somebody was to get the first weekend upset.
the only way I could see is if Chris Creighton has been playing better as of late. So I mean, let's say maybe they possibly could give Auburn a run for their money, possibly depending on how I mean if they make shots. And
Yep.
Gonzaga has been down, so I won't say that. The only team I could really see giving Auburn a run for their money is probably I'd probably say Oregon. Oregon Oregon is pretty athletic and they can make shots. I mean they beat they've beaten Wisconsin. They took Michigan State to the brink and at Breslin.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean I could totally see that.
Yep.
Um, and then in the West bracket, I mean the way BYU has been playing offensively, and Clemson is solid too. Clemson could be a team that could knock out Florida.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, bro. Having us play Norfolk State in a 2-15 matchup against the HBCU, I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm traumatized.
Oh no.
Us Iowa State playing HBCUs, hell no.
Oh god. Okay, which
like
one is it? I can't remember which matchup
That
was
was
it.
it was the year after they went to the Elite Eight. They lost to Hampton in the first round.
Oh, this was before I was born. Okay, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
that
not
was
alive for
before. This
this.
was before you were
Okay,
born.
I was just like,
I wasn't even an Iowa State fan, but I remember that.
oh,
This is a legendary game that people still talk about to this day.
yeah, not the one that got you station fired, basically.
Yeah. Ooh, and look at this hypothetical matchup in the Midwest bracket in Cleveland. Another Wisconsin Marquette matchup, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I'm looking here. Yeah, looking more into like the Midwest. I don't know how Montana's gonna. I know Montana's pretty good in the Big Sky, but I don't know how they're gonna be able to keep up with Houston.
Houston
I
will
think
kill
Houston's
them.
just gonna Houston's gonna like whether it be LJ Cryer and Milos Uzan shooting the lights out, or they just bully
It
ball
might be
by Juwan
Sharp.
Roberts. Or yeah, or get outshot by Emmanuel Sharp because you know, or you get bully balled by Juwan Roberts and Javier Francis, and
Yeah,
maybe and then JoJo Tugler as well.
I swear, man. Yeah, I mean they have it. They're a lot better offensively, and they can make threes this year. So Houston, I think is I think they're primed for a Final Four run this year, especially since they got basically screwed last year when Jamal Shed got hurt in that
Yeah.
Duke game.
Uh huh. Yeah, I truly think Houston goes to the Final Four. Jamal Shed
So do
doesn't
I.
get injured. It's it's really the parallels between Iowa State and Houston. It's like you have years where like if your biggest player didn't get injured, you probably go deeper. This is like them losing Jamal Shed was our is like the equivalent to us losing George
Mm-hmm.
Niang. That's crazy how that works.
I'm telling you, we were. I'm in a group chat with some Houston guys, uh, and we've met them up in person and at the football game. I'm like, hey, bro, this will be the ultimate round three, as if we play each other in San Antonio with a chance to go to the national championship. Iowa State, Houston, round three
Yeah,
for all the marbles.
yeah. I mean, the path is more difficult for Iowa State, but
Yeah.
unless they catch unless they can catch fire at the right time, because teams like might limp in, but like they might just lock in and just go at you. Like so, it's just that's just the craziness of basketball because like you don't know when you're gonna hit your hot streak or when you're gonna hit your lulls.
Yeah, that's the thing. You'll know when you'll that's sort of like the beauty and the curse of the of the NCAA tournament, because it's like, man, you could just be hot, and then you could just like with BYU. BYU was hot coming in, and then they just couldn't make a thing in the Big 12 tournament. I forgot who they played. I think it was Tech that beat them in the Big 12 tournament, and then
Yeah,
um, they couldn't make anything in that first round game,
yeah, against
they got
Duquesne.
destroyed. Yeah, and they got beat by Duquesne.
Yeah, so I mean that's just March, but I mean looking one more here at the East, yeah. Other than that, there's really not much. So I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of not too much. Like obviously, I think the big thing is like I think for Iowa State, I think it's like you just gotta like you obviously learn like you learn the hard way about your effort, and
Mm-hmm.
now can this like be the catalyst for how you reapproach things, like how you like prepare and things like that? Because maybe some people maybe were saying that. I mean, this was a case. Maybe Iowa State might have overlooked Oklahoma State for what we got coming up now and with Arizona. But
Yeah,
what were you
I
gonna
thought
say?
about that. I thought about that because it's like that was sort of like a sleepy arena. A lot of other shows were talking about that too. They're like, hey, maybe this could be a prime for Oklahoma State upset because Iowa State they're already they only have Cujo back, but they're not fully at full strength.
Mm-hmm.
This could be they said this could be a game that they could see Iowa State dropping.
Yeah, and I said, yeah, don't overlook anyone in the Big 12, even if it's Oklahoma State. You never overlook anyone, and I guess I was proven correct. Yeah, you never overlook anyone. But I think that's enough of like moping about Oklahoma State. Uh,
Yeah,
I'm ready for this Arizona game. I am so ready for this
let's
Arizona game,
go.
dude. The weather's gonna be nice. It's a prime time tip off on ESPN. You get all this pomp and circumstance. You're gonna honor like not just Taman Lipsey being the all-time career steals record holder. Now he's the current one, passing Melvin Edgem against Houston. But you also get Tyrese Halliburton coming back to Iowa State for his for his Olympic banner getting dropped, for his gold medal as a part of Team USA. So there's going to be a lot. I think the Oklahoma State game might have taken out like some of the juice, but I think they're still good. It's still going to be a good like crowd regardless of that, just because like just kind of like I think this just feels like a must win. These next three games are must win, and if you want to start winning, you start with Arizona. And I mean, some some of the fans, I mean, myself, it's personal because Caleb Love. It's personal.
We had them beat, bro. I'm still mad about that shit.
Exactly. And like, and it's bold now. Not just that, but now you got like a lot of fans that have given up on you. Like, we're at the point again where a lot of fans are giving up on you. They're turning on you. I mean, it's got to be bulletin board material at this point. So it's just like go out, prove them wrong, and just play your game. And I think this just sets up. And I mean, yeah, with the standings in the Big 12, I think it's just going to keep the guys on their heels and like really ensure that they are preparing, like they're prepared for this.
So I guess we'll just jump into it. Obviously, we know who the main guys are going to be for Arizona. So I guess we'll just go to are the keys for this game for Iowa State to win.
I think it's just like a number one thing. I hope that Keyshawn, like, it sounds like Keyshawn Gilbert is going to be back for
Hmm.
Arizona, so that's good. I think having him healthy is going to really open up things a lot. It's going to open up more like just open up the offense a little more. You're gonna have Keyshawn Gilbert, who's probably our best ball handler on the team. I say that even though he turns the ball over a lot, but like I still think he is the best ball handler on the squad. So I think a lot of the offense is going to run through him. I think it's just a matter of like him like really playing his game. He's going to drive the lane, have guys open, and them knocking down the shots, being physical early
Yep.
and being physical throughout the game. And then I think honestly, you really just like the crowd's just like you got to keep the crowd in it. I think that's the big thing because it's like you got to give the crowd a reason to still be in it because you could easily as a fan not care just because of how things have gone. But if you make the game very entertaining for the audience, you're going to show the audience that like yes, you as a team, you still care. Like there's still a lot more to play for, and that psychologically starts from the team, goes to the fans, and it just circles back.
Right. Um, Now, one thing before we go, um, yeah, we got to talk about this. This has been the hottest topic within the last few hours of Iowa State Twitter, man. We got to talk about this Jamie Pollard discussion, bro. Like, what are your thoughts? Because I'm not going to lie, I was sort of heated when I saw this statement.
Yeah, so this is gonna come from Iowa State's like Know Your Leaders like town hall. This is something that the university hosts on like a consistent basis. And yesterday they had Iowa State athletics director Jamie Pollard, and he was like discusses like a number of topics um related to Iowa State. The big one I think a lot like the big one that has everybody's eyes is about like the selling of alcohol at Jack Tri Stadium. Now, this has been a topic of in Hilton Coliseum actually. So the idea of selling alcohol at like Iowa State sporting events has just been controversial for like the longest time. Maybe since like Pollard's like his entire like time at Iowa State, he's been always been asked this question, and he's been like pretty adamant about like his stance on like not selling it. And here are a couple quotes. This is from the Iowa State Daily. Sophia Wyckoff reported this yesterday. So his first quote regarding alcohol and Jack Trice, he says that it is a much more complicated issue than most people even realize. There are a host of issues servicing that. He says like the stadium is not set up for it, and he says like you think the lines are long today and the concourses gets blocked by people now. Add beer to it, and you aren't walking through it. Now, somebody did point out how crazy this is. Him saying this while they had the whole I think it was like Kyle G at about Twitter pointed out that like they sold beer at the George Strait concert, which is earlier this
Hmm.
year. So yeah, and I think I see your comment on it. So it's like, how are you gonna come out and say like this about beer sales like but you had a concert which you sold beer and the way the concessions were what.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is it's not really about for me. I don't really drink that much, but like I just feel like this is a missed opportunity on a way to make more revenue. Like I just, especially when you're in a world of college football where where it's there is a higher gap between the haves and the have-nots, and with the Big Ten and the SEC trying to, uh, further themselves and try to make it their playoff, like we got to find different ways, especially schools developmental programs like Iowa State. We got to find ways to be creative and try to make more revenue. I
Yeah,
mean, even with the with the lawsuits coming and with schools paying their own players, I mean, we're still gonna have to have the collectives and stuff to still like support these players, keep these players. I just feel like it would be common sense to sell beer at the stadiums. And yeah, I guess we do. I mean, there are going to be some, drunk idiots. I know that was one of his concerns, but to
yeah,
say that to call people slobs, man, especially a part of your fan base that like you know pays to come to these games, the ones that tailgate, like for me, I mean, I know I come 4.5 hours away 4 to 5 times a year. Like it seems like it's really, really tone deaf. And it feels like you're sort of alienating a part of your fan base that does support the team.
yeah. And then he ended like this talk about saying like if you can't refrain from drinking for 3.5 hours from the game, then don't come to the game. I don't care. It feels kind of weird that like people are gonna be like drunks. Like he says the whole thing about like drunk slob spilling beer because they haven't had their first beer ever. But I that's a bit of a stretch. Like, are you saying like people are only have their first beer at like there? Because like we're drinking like crazy at tailgates, and you like one of the reasons why we go so hard at tailgates is because it makes up for not being able to have a beer at like these games. So it feels like it's such a dumb trade off. It's like you're complaining of like your thing of like this is where I see it, and obviously as a student, the students we've been at it about
Right.
wanting alcohol because like but it's like we actually see like the logical fallacy behind this. Like, okay, so you're having us like you're basically like insinuating that we need to just like slam home a lot like there, like when you're not getting it up. You're not even getting money from like yeah, I know you're getting money from like the tailgate, but you're not getting money from alcohol sales. The reason why we have out like we're buying it from our own pocket. We're not giving it to anything. We're buying it at whatever grocery store or liquor store we're at. So that's not even going to you.
And not to mention, it's sort of hypocritical considering the Suka South End Zone sells has you can have beer in there, but then like it's some of this statement sounds very, very hypocritical. I'm pretty sure that there's got to be something that's coming out within the next few
Yeah,
days because
I,
like you can't you're gonna have a whole lot of fans mad at
yeah,
you and
a,
like oh
yeah.
man.
I mean, a lot of people I think have realized at this point that he basically all he cares about is the donors, and I
Yep.
get it. The donors are the ones that put the big money. There's no doubt. But are you really gonna shaft over your like every man fan base, like the common fan base, like the non like big rich donors? You're gonna alienate them just to really appease the donors this much? Because the thing is with donors, they're eventually gonna stop donating money, and you have like your next generation of donors are going to be like the students that are sitting like in the classrooms like every day, the some of them that might be in the student sections at these games. Hey, I might even be one. So but if you're
Hell, I'm one right now. You're a part of the next generation. We're like my generation right now, and y'all and me and you are going to be the main donors in like the next 10 years.
right.
So like it just doesn't make any sense, man.
Yeah, and it just feels like overall with the way like my like me like this is just from my experiences the way students have been treated, the way we've been kind of getting shafted. It feels like it's starting to like be like, all right, yeah, at this point, if you're gonna be like this to like me right now while I'm attending university, then I can just take my money somewhere else. Respectfully, I can just take it somewhere
Exactly.
else.
Yeah,
I'm
or just watch it at the bar.
yeah. And then there are some other things that like Hollywood talks about in this town hall. Talks about like the black and white uniforms, the basketball and football. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Our basketball uniforms, black and white, they gotta go. They gotta go.
They have to go. Don't ever wear them
It's
things
not just
again.
because we lost to them, because they just look bad. They look like practice jerseys.
They do.
Like they look terrible. With football. I mean that's. I
Keep
mean
them.
yeah, football is fine. I
Keep
know they
them,
look
bro.
bad, but I'd rather keep the football ones, and it makes sense to have the football ones because well, the players like it. Matt Campbell likes it. So
And they're sort of superstitious because we've only lost like about one or two times in the black jerseys. We have a very good record wearing black jerseys
yeah, and look at like our the games that we won this year. We won our 10th game against Kansas State.
in black jerseys. We've beaten Kansas State four, or was it four out of the last five times in black jerseys?
I Bleav so. Yeah, the only loss we had was like 2 years ago when you had like that long touchdown from was it Adrian Martinez to whoever the receiver was. But yeah,
Philip Brooks or whatever his name was.
yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, that game was more in reach. But yeah, 4 of the last 5 wins for Iowa State have been the black jerseys. I mean, some of your most iconic moments have come from it. I mean, talk about that 2018 game when basically Matt Campbell sent Bill Snyder into retirement for a second
yep,
time. They were in the black
yeah,
uniforms. So
yeah. Keep them.
yeah, and not just that, but the Pop Tarts Bowl when we wore the Oreos, like
I'm telling you, since we're gonna be the away team, I guarantee you that we'll be wearing those Oreo jerseys. Like the people are gonna be pissed, but be prepared to wear those Oreo jerseys in Ireland.
and again, like the thing when we wore the Oreo jerseys, the Pop Tarts Bowl, it's like, are y'all not seeing like the pattern? Like where I don't see a strawberry, banana, or whatever. Like
Cookies and cream. Hello.
you're leaning into the marketing, so yeah, there you go. I mean, I haven't seen an Orange Crush. I mean, with Miami, I don't know what they could have done because I don't know if there was like an Orange Crush Pop Tart, but hey, who knows? Maybe they make them.
Oh no, you know what would be elite is if they if Pop Tarts made a like a mint chocolate Pop Tart, and
Mhm.
then we come out with green. People would lose their mind if we had a green jersey.
Hey, listen here. Hey, we're in Ireland, so you know about the green jerseys in Ireland. So
Dude, we should totally do that.
I don't know if we can do that, but that'd be hilarious with like a one-off. But
Oh man, we do that, and then and then K State was like, "Oh, you can't win beating them." I'm like, "Well, we beat you in green. We'll beat you in purple now. We'll beat you in your old school colors."
we're gonna just show up to one of the football. Like we're gonna show up against Kansas State. We're dressed like Barney.
Oh, all right. That was fun. This was fun, man.
Yeah.
Uh, thank you guys. We're gonna call it today.
Yep.
Thank you guys for joining us on the Bleav in Iowa State podcast. Um, we are a top 15 sports podcast in the state of Iowa, nominated by FeedSpot. Once again, people in the state of Iowa, people everywhere across the world. Thank you guys for always supporting us. We love you guys. And also, if you want to get in contact with us, follow us on social media. I can be found on Twitter. Tyler, can be found at SciTech Guy. That's my handle. Cody, find him on Twitter at Matt Campbell Impersonator. Also, follow us on our 5 forms of social media to keep up with us on what we're doing on the podcast on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. So, for Tyler Carter,
And for Cody Van Steelalum,
this is the Bleav in Iowa State podcast. Roll clones, baby.
let's go State.
I swear, bro, we need to do this. We need to do that.
Like a Shamrock Shake version